How's it going, everyone, and welcome to the #1 Raiders podcast in the world. This is the Raiders Daily. Welcome to our Hard Knocks Recap Episode 2 show. Let's get right into it. Okay, so this episode was a lot better than the first episode, mostly because they showed a lot of Antonio Brown and his feet, which are just disgusting. They are so gross. Now, I had a little heads up on this episode. I knew they were going to show his feet. I knew he was going to talk about his feet. I already knew the details that this happened in France and all that kind of stuff. I think most people did anyways. Most people knew that. But, when he said on the show, "Do you want to see my feet?" I wasn't expecting him to take off his socks, and it was gross. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Now, the good news is most of that stuff you've seen hanging off his feet, those blisters and things like that, he actually had those. He got a laser, lasered them off his feet. Remember, it's both of them too. I think the other one looks a lot worse, and he didn't show that one, but I don't know. It was so gross, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I had to kind of turn away because I thought I was going to throw up. I'm not even joking. But anyways, that was pretty cool. They didn't really get into the helmet stuff very much. Maybe next week they'll get into that. But remember, now, Mayock and Gruden do have the final say on what goes on that show. I was surprised. I'm just going to talk about the end of the episode real quick. I was surprised they actually got footage from today on tonight's episode. I mean, that's incredible. Now, insane. Now, they only got like a second, but they got a teaser for next week's episode on tonight, and that stuff happened today. Now, that show, Hard Knocks, is very highly edited. Stuff that happened, weeks ago is put on. It makes it seem like it's just happening, now. And when in fact, they taped it weeks ago. Some of that stuff, for example, when they had Hunter Renfrow sing that song and Max Crosby sing that song, that happened, I don't know, a while ago. But it makes it seem like that, that happened perhaps last week. Max Crosby also had a lot of screen time on the show. Now, I knew they were following him. I knew that. I didn't know what was gonna, what was gonna happen on the show, obviously. But I knew they were following him. I knew they were following Keelan Doss. I know they're following James Cowser. Antonio Brown, obviously, is the big star of the show, and John Gruden. But Max Crosby showing him with the broken hand, getting his hand broken against the Rams in that preseason game, that was crazy. He knows. Now, you got to remember, Max Crosby, he knows he can't miss any time. He has to be out there and pressing the hell out of his defensive line coach and John Gruden and everyone else. And that's exactly what he did. Not many players, I'll tell you this much, not many players would break their hand. And I talked to Max Crosby. His hand is broken. Like, broken. He just decided, first of all, what you don't really see on the Hard Knock show is he played after his hand was broken. He broke it, and I don't know, he probably played at least 9 more snaps until, I believe, until they stopped the Rams. And then that's when he came up the field and said, "Oh, there's something wrong with my hand." But, I mean, the guy was still playing with a broken hand. Incredible. Now, he never broke a bone before, so he didn't know how it felt. But he did know, from what I know, that there was a bone sticking out of his hand. So there was something going on there. And but he comes back out with a cast on his hand and finishes what he started. I mean, he is called Mad Max for a reason. That guy is a tough son of a bitch. So kudos to Max Crosby. He was great in the show. Keelan Doss. Now, we all knew that was going to be a storyline. We all knew. This is the Oakland kid playing for the Oakland Raiders. There was going to be no doubt that this guy was going to be a storyline in this show. undrafted free agent. They usually follow those guys. So we knew he was going to be, at some point in this show. He was in the show. Luckily, he did score a touchdown in preseason, so that made it look good. I did like the Sean McVay, John Gruden stuff. I wish they showed more of their conversations, just because I know how they speak to each other. They talk a lot of shit, man, those guys. About players, about everyone. Remember, they're pretty good friends, and they like to talk shit. And they did a little bit on the show. They showed some of it. Gruden cursed a lot on the show. And I know that's something he's trying not to do. There's a lot more cursing that goes on that you're not seeing on Hard Knocks, I'll tell you that much. But Kevin McVay, I wish they would show more of the dialogue, because I know they talked a lot. They showed the scrimmage game, the Rams versus the Raiders in the scrimmage game. They didn't show much of it. I was kind of surprised about that. They didn't show a whole ton of the scrimmage. The Raiders had some good moments in that scrimmage too that I felt like they didn't show. Instead, they just showed all the negative stuff. Tyrell Williams dropping that dime from Derek Carr, which did suck at the scrimmage. But, other good things happened in that scrimmage. Of course, they showed the fight, which I gotta tell you, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that whole fight was just guys knowing Hard Knocks was there and guys wanting to be on TV. Most of those players in that scuffle are not guys that will probably even be on either roster. So, I get some camera time. That happens a lot with Hard Knocks. You gotta remember that. That happens a lot. So yeah, this episode was a lot better. Remember, I am recording this as soon as the episode is done airing. Now, I was going to maybe start doing these shows on Wednesday so I could watch it like 2 or 3 times and maybe have notes and stuff like that. But I don't think, who cares? If I miss some things, I miss some things. I did enjoy Charles Woodson talking to Jonathan Abram. That was cool. They both wore number 24. Charles Woodson, by the way, on a side note, the Raiders are trying to get him to be a coach for the Raiders, probably not this season, but next season. They really want him to be part of the organization. He told the team and told several people he did not want to travel, so he didn't really want to take a job, but I think he's leaning towards it. I really, really do. So I would not be surprised next season if Charles Woodson is the defensive backs coach, maybe the assistant defensive backs coach, something. I wouldn't be surprised. Not to mention, this is not the last time you're going to see Charles Woodson. This should be the last season in Oakland, but never say never. It could be another year. But we think this is the last season in Oakland. You're going to see Charles Woodson at some of these games, just like you're going to see Marshawn Lynch at a couple of these Oakland games. It's just going to happen. Now, back to Hard Knocks, back to Antonio Brown. John Gruden, you could tell he loves this guy. I mean, he's talking to everyone. Wait till we get Antonio Brown. He's talking about how, it's like playing golf and, you don't have one of your balls or whatever. I mean, this guy really wants Antonio Brown on the field. Hopefully his feet do heal. Now, of course, like I said, the whole helmet issue, they didn't show him freaking out and saying he was going to retire over it. Mostly because, listen, spoiler alert, most of that story that was put out there is untrue. It's just not accurate. And, it's very sad when a guy like me, I don't call myself an insider. I just don't do that. But I get news. I talk to people, obviously. I get news way before these guys. These are national NFL insiders, and I get stuff way before them. And I also know when they are lying. And when I read Mike Silver's Twitter tirade he went on about Antonio Brown, I knew some of the stuff was fake. He was just making stuff up. For example, I'll give you an example right now. Now, first of all, I gotta say this. Mike Silver says that Antonio Brown is at these meetings and he's not paying attention and all this nonsense. Antonio Brown has been in one meeting. One. He's been in one meeting. So what meetings is he talking about? Now, he talked about his bank account. Now, what he got that from was a joke. It was a joke that Antonio Brown told, I believe it was Hunter Renfrow, that they're talking about how much money each guy makes. You know, he's like, how much you make? $750K, whatever Hunter Renfrow says. Antonio Brown, John Gruden wanted to give an example, and he said they made up a story that Antonio Brown lost all his money. It was just a joke. But this never happened with Mike Silver's tweets about him checking his bank account while film study is on and not being interesting, you know, not caring about what is going on. None of that is true. The fact is, yes, Antonio Brown is a diva. We all know that. But this guy is a hard-working dude. That is the reality. And he has feet that, I mean, they're disgusting. You guys just saw them. They look like they have potato chips hanging off them. They are gross. Trust me, this is not a good time for Antonio Brown. Do you really think with his feet like that, he's going to be that cocky and that? No. This guy just wants his feet to heal so he can just destroy people, and he will. That's what I'm here to tell Raider fans. Antonio Brown's feet, they are going to get better. I would say in about 2 weeks, they'll probably be completely better. They really will be. They might be still a little bit sore, obviously, but they will be better. Like I said, he got his feet lasered. They got all the stuff off him. Now he just has to pretty much rest his feet and put the cream on. They should be healed, though, in about 2 weeks. And when they do, when his feet are healed, he's going to destroy people like he's been doing his whole career. So, guys, you know, I read this thing. I would never pay for it. I got a free username. This Tim Kwame, whatever the hell his name is, talking about how Antonio Brown is going to be terrible for the Raiders. He's done. Listen, Antonio Brown is going to light that division on fire. I don't think people understand just how good that guy is. And the drama's over, guys. That's the thing. Yes, I will tell you this. With the helmet thing, the only thing Mike Silver got correctly was Antonio Brown was upset that first day. It was the one day, by the way. It was one day. He got mad because he couldn't wear that helmet anymore. He was pissed off. You know, and he couldn't understand why he couldn't wear it, blah, 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 blah. But that was pretty much it. It was a one-day thing. And then he went home, and he had to find a helmet, but he didn't go home because of a helmet. He went home because he had to get treatments on his feet. But, of course, that's not the story they want to paint because they want to make the Raiders dysfunctional. They want to put a bad light on Antonio Brown. And it's just because they hate you guys and they hate the Raiders organization. That's all it is. So, with that being said, back to Hard Knocks. So yeah, this show was much better. Like I said, I did like the back and forth with Gruden yelling at Mike Glennon about those two terrible passes he threw in preseason. Nathan Peterman with that big long run in preseason. I'm glad they covered that. Brent Musburger got time on Hard Knocks, which Vic Tafer actually, he broke that on Twitter, I believe. He said that Hard Knocks was filming that guy in the booth. But, yeah, so overall, good episode. Like I said, the Raiders are only going to show you what they want you to see. And they showed you pretty good stuff, you know. I wanted to see more on the field Gruden. We got to see that. We got to see him yelling at players. We got to see all that. We got to see Brenson Buckner, who defensive line coach. Like I said, he's a star. He gets on these guys' asses. So that's good news. We got to see some of Clinton Farrell, and that's good news. I hope this guy is good. I really do. You know, he didn't have the greatest preseason game in the world. he didn't have the greatest scrimmage against the Rams in the world. But I'm hoping that he gets better in time. I really do, because the Raiders need this guy to step up. They really, really do. Think about it. Their defensive end situation right now, it's him. It's Furl, and who else? You got Benson Mayoa and Josh Morrow. Josh Morrow might be the starter. And the defensive tackles, of course, like I said, they got the best defensive line coach. I love their defensive line coach. Great guy. I talk to him a lot. But this guy, I mean, he gets on these guys' asses. Those guys got to get better. I'll tell you one guy who's going to be good this season, and I would watch out for him. That's Jonathan Hankins. I'm telling you guys, all you Raider fans, watch out for that guy. He is going to be good this season. They still got P.J. Hall from last year, second-round pick. Hasn't done a lot. I'm going to be honest. I like P.J. Hall, as you guys know, but he hasn't done a lot in training camp. The guy is the strongest defensive tackle they have. This guy can deadlift 300 pounds. He's a strong dude. So, he's got to put that. He's got to start being more dominant. You got Mo Hurst. He's been a little bit quiet. Jonathan Hankins is their best defensive tackle. That's why they brought Westbrooks in. Because Hurst and Hall simply haven't been living it up, being that great so far. But hopefully those guys can step up. Hankins has been good. Ellis has been good. Defensive line has to play better than last year, and they will. I mean, let's be honest. This defense, even with the rookies, even with the unknowns, they are light years better than what the Raiders had last season. Last season, they had Rashawn Melvin, who didn't even want to play. They had Leon Hall, who's 100 years old. They had Frosty Rucker as a defensive end. Sorry, God bless his heart, Frosty Rucker, but he's Frosty Rucker. They didn't have anyone. They had Bruce Irvin at one point, who, if you remember, would put his hands on his hips and didn't care about if the play was starting or not, and then he would go run to reporters and tell them Derek Carr was crying, just to make up a huge story just to see. The guy's freaking mentally ill. So, I mean, the team was in shambles last year. Then on offense, Derek Carr really had no one to throw to besides Jared Cook. Now, Jared Cook is a good tight end, don't get me wrong, and he's going to be awesome with the Saints. Watch out for him with the Saints. Drew Brees throwing to him, that guy's going to have a great season. But Drew Brees has other weapons he could throw to. Derek Carr had no other weapons last year. Let's be honest. So he had Amari Cooper to start the year. Amari Cooper would show up when he wanted to in games, but he wasn't consistent. And then he got traded, and then the Raiders had no one. They had Marcel Aitman as a starter. Marcel Aitman probably won't even make this team the roster this season. There's a good chance Marcel Aitman does not make the roster. There's a very good chance. So, now they got, take a look at what they got now. Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams, J.J. Nelson, Ryan Grant, Hunter Renfrow. It just goes on and on. Keelan Doss. They got weapons all over the place. Now, in their tight end position, they got Darren Waller, who they think can be really, really good. They still got Derek Carrier. We'll see what happens with him. They got Luke Wilson, who had one good year under Tom Cable. We'll see what happens with that. But, they got better in all areas. The running back position, they got Josh Jacobs, a fresh new running back. That's going to help. And then you got Doug Martin. He's battling it out with DeAndre Washington. And you got Jalen Richard, who's almost a shoo-in to make the team at this point. So you're going to have 3 running backs there. This team is going to be better. Now, I know Gruden did have that one line in Hard Knocks. They cut it off. If you noticed, it was edited. It was very highly edited. They were talking about, how good their teams were. And Gruden says, we're not a Super Bowl team or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't remember how exactly he phrased it. But he said, we got a lot of work to do. And then, you could tell he was still talking, but then it just kind of got edited out. Who knows what he said at that point to Sean McVay? We'll never know because it got edited out. They quickly faded it out and went to some other segment. But I would love to hear the rest of that conversation. So that's something I liked on Hard Knocks. Like I said, the McVay, Gruden stuff was great. The Antonio Brown, talking about his feet for the first time, really, that is great. I think he's going to talk more about it next week. I think he's going to talk about the helmet issue. I think they're going to show that one day when he got all mad next week, that hopefully they follow Max Crosby a little bit more footage of him. Now, I do know they've been following him still. I know there's cameras all over him. But who knows what they're going to use? Because they follow a lot of players. Like I said, I know they follow James Cowser. I know they have. But they haven't really shown him that much in the show yet. Are they waiting? I don't know. Maybe they filmed him and he didn't do much in the preseason, so they scrapped it. Remember, they filmed like 800 hours or something crazy like that. They film so much stuff. And then they edit it down and then they choose, what they're going to go with. You never know what they're going to use. The players don't even know. The players don't even know. They know, obviously, they're mic'd up. They know there's a camera, obviously, following them. They know all these type of things, but they don't know if they're going to make it on the show. You just don't know that. You have no idea. Do you think Derek Carr knew every single thing he was saying to Hunter Renfrow when they were talking about getting married? Do you think he knew that was going to make it on the show? He didn't know that. Because he's talked to Hunter Renfrow probably 1,000 times, and they've both been mic'd up. The field is mic'd up. You don't know what's going to be on the show. You just don't know. The Raiders, John Gruden and Mike Mayock do. And then they have final say, and they say, okay, you can keep this in, you got to take this out. That's how it goes. But overall, better episode tonight. It really, really was. Antonio Brown's feet, they are disgusting. There is no doubt about it. But I know for a fact, if you would look at them today, for example, they look a lot better than they did during that filming. Remember, they filmed that when he showed his feet. That's, 2 weeks old. That didn't happen today. So all that like dead skin and stuff, I'm sorry, I'm getting grossed out even talking about it, but all that stuff on his feet got lasered off it's gone. And now he just has like blisters or some sort on it. I don't know. I don't know much about his feet, and the more I talk about it, the more grossed out I get. But like I said, they think in about 2 weeks, his feet will be good enough to go. So that will be intriguing. I think, this is my prediction, by the way, for Hard Knocks. The last episode of Hard Knocks, they will show Antonio Brown destroying people. He's going to play in one of these preseason games. Not a lot of snaps, maybe 1 or 2. Derek Carr is going to throw a bomb to him. They'll probably do it just for Hard Knocks, by the way. Gruden will set up a play, the first play of the game, throw a bomb to Antonio Brown. Hopefully he catches it for a touchdown. And Hard Knocks will use that, or maybe they'll do it at practice or something like that. But that's my prediction for the last episode of Hard Knocks. You're going to see Antonio Brown just killing it at practice, because he is going to practice eventually, especially by the time this show is done airing, So that's what's going to happen. But it is going to be interesting for next week's show. So until then, next week's show, of course, we'll do another show next week, and I'll talk other stuff too, like I did tonight. So I will see you guys next Tuesday night. Same time, same channel. Well, whatever this channel is. The Raiders Daily, the #1 Raiders podcast in the world. The #1 unofficial HBO Hard Knocks recap show. The only Hard Knocks recap show. I think other people are starting to steal the idea, but they steal everything from me. So what's the difference? It doesn't matter. I'm still #1 in the world. My name is Stephen Michaels. I love you all. I will see you next week.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.